So, Team USA have a big problem. This is a team that should be beating everyone by 40. And this current starting lineup they run isn't even looking much better than Japan or Belgium. In fact, they looked worse than Belgium. But anyway, I do apologize for the towel and I apologize for the focus. The heat is affecting my camera. That's how bad this has gotten in Alicante. We're in a damn heat wave here with no aircon. It is affecting my camera, but you know what? It isn't affecting my ability to upload videos. So, anyway, this starting lineup is not good. It's just not good. You've got Taurasi, who is looking 42 years old out there. You have got Fee Collier, who is looking like she's still injured. And not even still injured, like, she's moving fine. It's just sometimes when you come back from injuries and when you have like one of those constant injuries, like plantar fasciitis is one of those injuries where it's like, it doesn't just go away. You always play with it. It just depends on whether or not the pain is like too unbearable to play with. Sometimes your adrenaline can get you through and it seems like she's just thinking about her injury a little bit too much. And again, against a weaker team like a Japan, and I think against a team with poor guards, you can put Chelsea Gray on the floor because she is the best passer in the team. She is the best at like setting up an offense, and she is going to be the player that will get the ball best to Stewie and Aja. And by the way, complaining about the starting five is not complaining about Breanna Stewart and Aja Wilson. They are the two best players in the team. So they're obviously going to start, and they are the two reasons why you're winning the Olympics if you're American. Like, nothing else. And against Germany, it's probably not the worst idea in the world to start with Chelsea Gray because, especially if Niara Sabli is out, I think you're going to be okay. You're going to be able to hide her on defense, and it's going to be hard for the big and Satu to guard your two bigs. So it's not the end of the world, but you're starting players based on sentiment. That's the thing. Like, even in the promo for this game, you're there seeing Diana Taurasi. Taurasi should not be starting. Like, I get it, starting her in the All-Star game where she was really good in the All-Star game. So I get it starting against Germany where she was decent. She was poor against Japan. She was non-existent against Belgium. And the problem is you've got they did it with, this is what they did with Chelsea Gray. They started Chelsea Gray, played her a couple of minutes, you were losing, took her off early, didn't play her the rest of the first half, you build up a lead. You put her on into the third quarter, they pull back. Belgium pull back into the game, and you have to take her off again and play her 9 minutes. Like, I don't understand starting for sentiment reasons. And I think a big reason why this is happening is because at the last Olympics, Chelsea Gray got screwed in the same way. In 2021, Chelsea Gray was the best point guard in the WNBA. Sue Bird was in her 40s. Sue Bird started every game. Chelsea Gray came off the bench, even though Chelsea Gray was by far the best point guard on that team. There was no question about that. Sue Bird wasn't even the second best point guard in that team. The second best point guard in that team, realistically, would have been Skylar Diggins-Smith. I get it, bringing in Sue Bird for experience. But if you're bringing in for experience, like if you're trying to play players for experience, then what does that say about the two players that look like they're showing experience are Breanna Stewart and Aja Wilson. Aja Wilson's just on track to be the GOAT. Breanna Stewart, in a world where Aja Wilson didn't exist, would be on track to be the GOAT. And Stewie was MVP at the last Olympics, playing her third Olympics, come off the back of an MVP. I get it. Diana Taurasi was drafted 12 years before Breanna Stewart. She was probably a vet to Breanna Stewart in the 2016 Olympics. It's 2024. It's been 8 years. Like, what age? Stewie's like pushing 30. She's 29, I think. I think she's 29. She could be 30. Either way, let's just say 30, for argument's sake. She's 30 years old. 30. She's 5 years older than Luka Doncic. She's the same age as LeBron was in 2015. They don't need a 42-year-old for veteran leadership. They don't need a crippled point guard for veteran leadership. The starting lineup, and the worst thing is that someone that should be starting got a DNP in the last game. And that's the issue. When you bring 6 score-first shooting guards, someone's going to have to get a DNP. Someone's going to have to be a DNP. But it shouldn't have been Kat Copper. The one player whose game actually suits like the international ball and the way refs are calling it. As you saw what Belgium did. Like Belgium went out early to try to see what the refs were going to do. To make the refs see what they were going to call, see what they weren't going to call. They went out early and went out physical. Fee Collier looked soft. As great as she is, she's not this enforcer type player. When you need that. You left Angel Reese at home. So someone's got to be that enforcer. Alyssa Thomas needs to start. You can move Stewie down to the 3 or play an Alyssa Thomas 3. Heck, play an Alyssa Thomas, or not an Alyssa Thomas. Alyssa Thomas. I'm getting as bad with the Nalissa Boston stuff. But play Alyssa Thomas a point guard for all I care. Alyssa Thomas needs to start. She needs to start. Play Stewie at the 1. Let Alyssa Thomas and Stewie share the 1 and go ultra big. It doesn't matter who you take out of the lineup. She has to start. Taurasi and Chelsea Gray, they're going to start against Belgium. We know they're going to start against Belgium. But if you are American, I'd be worried. Or say not against Belgium, against Germany. Because it's not going to affect you against Germany. But in that final, or semi-final, whichever way it comes out, and you're facing either Belgium or France again, Julie Van Loo is not going to shoot 1 of 11 from 3 every game. The French look as good as America. They look as dominant as America. They beat Nigeria by 20 and put up 20. They held Canada to 3 points in a quarter, or 2 points in a quarter. They look nearly as good as America right now. And if you go out with a starting lineup like this against France, and you, instead of being down 2 against Belgium, you build yourself an 8-point deficit, and then France are able to bring on like a Marine Johannes off the bench and she just ends up cooking you, and suddenly that 8 points is 15, that's a hard hole to dig yourself out of. But if you're Cheryl Reeve and you picked an actual team based on who's going to win you the game, you wouldn't start the same team. It's like Steve Kerr constantly playing Joel Embiid. Being like, no, Joel Embiid's starting. Joel Embiid not only should not be starting, there is more, like Joel Embiid should be closer to getting DNPs on the men's team than he should be to starting. But because, he's Joel Embiid, we have to start him. You're starting a team based on name value and based on sentiment, not on who the best team is. The fact, to the extent that Diana Taurasi is on a team with Kat Copper, they basically play the same role for this Team USA team. Kat Copper is by far, she might be all WNBA first team, by far the best player in the Phoenix Mercury. There are out of the 3 Phoenix Mercury players, she's the only one that isn't playing. And it's not like a Jason Tatum situation where, he's competing with LeBron and KD. If Kat Copper was competing with Stewie and Aja Wilson, then fair enough. But realistically, the player that should be competing with them is Fee Collier. But obviously, Cheryl Reeve is the Minnesota Lynx coach, so she has to start her player. She has to start the player that plays for her team. She has to start the only point guard she brought, because she only brought 1 point guard and for some reason won't start Sabrina Ionescu, even though Sabrina Ionescu did her best Courtney Vandersloot impression by just not looking ever to shoot the ball and just passing the ball against Belgium. If that's all you want your point guard to do, just at least play Sabrina, because she's not going to get cooked on every single defensive possession, and you don't need to start a 42-year-old Diana Taurasi and play her 15 minutes, especially if that comes at the expense of sitting Kat Copper for a game. If you're going to give somebody DNPs, the players that you should be giving DNPs are Taurasi, Kelsey Plum. Like, if you want to start, like, the starting lineup should realistically be Sabrina at the 1, Copper probably at the 2, but fair enough if you want to start like a Jewel Lloyd or something. Just somebody that can kind of defend. Not even an elite defender, because you don't have any absolutely elite defenders. Someone who can kind of defend. And at the 3, like Alyssa Thomas, you can't not start Alyssa Thomas after how she's been playing. But obviously she won't. None of those will happen, because you have to start Taurasi because for sentiment's sake. You have to start Chelsea Gray because people just need to scream point God every time she gets 2 assists or 3 assists to 2 turnovers and literally does not look at the basket every time she touches the ball, and teams don't even guard her. But people got to scream point God when she makes the 1 flashy pass a game. Fee Collier is on your team, so you can't cut her. And you just know that it doesn't matter what we do, as long as we play Aja Wilson and Breanna Steward 35 minutes a game, we're going to win the game. And that's fine. That's fine. There's a difference between being a good coach and, like, And the worst part is Cheryl Reeve is a really good coach. But she's doing a horrible job with this team. She's doing a genuinely horrible job with this team. And there is a way of playing with this USA squad, even with the 12 they brought to the Olympics, where losing is impossible. Not unlikely. Because you have Breanna and Aja Wilson, it is extremely unlikely you lose. But there is a squad that you could have brought to this Olympics to make losing impossible. And there is a lineup that you can run and rotations you can make to make losing impossible with this team. The problem is that Cheryl Reeve, as a coach, is taking a squad which should make it impossible to lose and has them playing that it is just unlikely they lose. Which is, again, I'll say the same thing about Steve Kerr on the men's side. I think Steve Kerr is the worst man. He's worse than Pop. And Popovich was a terrible Team USA coach. And Steve Kerr is worse than Popovich. Steve Kerr literally has the greatest collection of talent, probably, Team USA has ever had. Playing barely better than a random World Cup team they would have. After coming fourth in the World Cup last year with as good a team as USA. Like, people talking about how bad USA's team was the World Cup last time. Is as good a team as USA have ever sent to a World Cup. And he got them finishing fourth. But yeah, that is the video. USA need to change something. Like, Taurasi and Chelsea Gray cannot start. Fee Collier, I don't agree with it. But she hasn't been as bad as them. She just hasn't been as good as Alyssa Thomas. Heck, play Alyssa Thomas point guard for all I care. But Sabrina should be starting. Alyssa Thomas should be starting. And then do whatever the hell you want otherwise. But those two have earned starting spots. You just know they're not going to get them.